welcome to SEO UnMasked number 40. It's 040 on July 12th, 2018. As always, we are glad to have you with us.
I'm the Diletto.
And I'm the lead investigative reporter into all things Spark Toro, Steve Brownlee.
What's up?
What's new with you guys?
Nothing, man. I've just been messing around with a blackjack simulator all day.
All day.
Not all day, but for the past.
I told you once you got that new, once you got your new client management system done, you just get to sleep now. That bad boy runs itself, man.
Yeah.
That's
some good news. I have my CRM done. Mr. Avi has it on our server. So now we're just in some final tests, and then we're going to start slowly rolling it out to some clients.
Yeah, and Vin actually got 25% off. It was just 1.4 million to get this bad boy done, so I got a really good deal.
No, I got to give props to Avi because I did bust his balls to get it up, but he did a great job. So we're doing a little aesthetic updates, and there's a few small bugs that gotta get worked out, but
is our audio okay? I'm getting a little bit of kind of wash basin type feedback, but I guess if it sounds right to you guys.
Might be the air conditioner.
Yeah, I got my AC on too.
Yeah, I think we're all pumping the AC in full power. So
I thought
sorry.
I put it on my microphone, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised. I suppose you guys could hear me, but the YouTube channel should not hear my air conditioner. I was probably pretty quiet on YouTube up until now.
Mine's on temperature control or whatever energy saver, so it should shut off in seconds.
Mine's on full power. I don't know why it's so goddamn. It's England, for God's sake.
Oh my god! Yeah, I can't wait to start actually using this this system, because we're actually getting requests now. Like, why don't you have a dashboard? Why don't you have a customer login? So now I can kind of just not have to hear that anymore.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Oh, you guys? Don't worry. That's
no, I mean our reports are hand prepared and checked, and we'd have to move the hand preparing and checking to be like live instantly. When someone tried to log a link, it would have to go through like a check immediately, and it's just much more efficient to do it when the report's nearly done. So we do like a pre-check, and then we do another one. It would be a mess to have to validate them all as we go along. And the other reason is when you're doing link building, like the report on average is going to be really good, but the easiest to get links on sites are always going to write back first. So if someone's first 3 links on their report aren't going to be as good as the next 7. Just that's how it works. Like, people with good sites take their sweet time, and you have to nag them 47 times. So the last thing you want to do is like to have to answer everyone over and over again. Yeah, you're going to get some amazing ones too. They're just going to take longer. You just want people to see that amazing report when it's all done and be like, "Oh wow, can I renew now?"
You gotta set the report to auto sort from highest to lowest, and then add.
Well, that doesn't help when the first 3 that come in are always the lowest.
Fact section that reports aren't complete until the end of the cycle.
It's just not happening, because then you
get
everyone emailing. I don't want this link. I want it replaced right now. And it's like, or people are going to constantly be checking it. It's been 3 days. How come I don't have 6 links out of 20 done yet? Or, no.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They all come in at once. It's not like with writing. Like, if you get a 50,000 word project, you're pretty much going to just work on it with the.
Hello?
What a freeze! Did I freeze? Who froze?
Everything.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, like, if you're doing a 50,000 word writing project, you're going to do like over 5 weeks. You're going to do like 10,000 words a week or something to get the right resource. With us, we're going to do a crap load of work in the first 2 weeks, and nothing's going to happen as far as the person looking can see. And then suddenly, like in the last 2 weeks, everything either appears or it doesn't.
Right.
And you don't get to see any gradual progress. It's not like we get 2 links. It's like nothing. Oh, here's your report anyway. There's no progress to show people. So
well, it's definitely not 100% automated. There's definitely going to be another employee that's cleaning up client instructions, dealing with hiccups in production. So there's definitely some manual effort, but a lot less than what we're doing right now, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah.
You finally joined us in the 21st century.
I'm going to take my time. Basically, my goal is to have it rolled out fully by the end of the year, or the first of next year.
You're a masochist surviving this long without one. Like we got to 5 clients, and Garrett and I were ready just to shut the business down because we didn't have one.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work out for us. We can't run this business. This is a nightmare. And then we were like, well, let's just see how we get on once we finish the system. And
yeah, you're right. I mean, the idea of just not having to do operations is a little mind-blowing to me. But you always have those ideas in the back of your head of what you want to do once you have some more free time. So it's exciting to be able to jump into that and try some other stuff to grow the business.
Well, we want to see you get on the front page of Spark Toro Trending, so I can cover you in my research.
.net or .com?
Let's not do any spoilers here, people. It's already in the comments anyway, probably. But
all right. So what do we got?
Something too confusing for me, so I'll let you cover this one. I'm assuming this advanced piece is in structured data, JSON LD. So
I put it up last week.
This is not me. I can't tell you anything about structured data.
Yeah, it's
I don't use it. I don't use schema.
Bill from over at SEO by the Sea had posted this last month. I kept meaning to put it up there, but Google didn't make a new patent. They updated theirs on structured data, and they updated it to incorporate more JSON. And I don't know, the patent doesn't exactly tell you much. Obviously,
it's a pretty sophisticated flowchart in there. I feel like I might patent method to drink liquid wine from
read the page. Are there any schemas? Look at the schema, and then can we tell what the schema is? It obviously doesn't tell you what it's actually doing, but
my takeaway from it was that when it comes to all the different structured data markups, you must go based on what developers.google.com is telling you is what they're focusing on, and it also says what they're focusing on is semi-structured data, which basically means it could be a mix of different structured data types. So it's a whole lot of nothing.
Well, we've been asked to talk about structured data, and Vin's got 101 rapid-fire points later.
Chubbies over chatbots. You didn't change that from last week.
No. Oh, yeah. Well, we didn't get a new one from any of the audience. If you want Vin and Garrett to beat me into saying something weird, just tweet it over. I put it on the list, and I'll try and beat them into saying it, but one of them will definitely say it before me. Usually Garrett.
Have you guys ever implemented a schema and actually saw a ranking boost as a result?
Yeah, we did it on a local client.
We were right to talk about it till the main topic, but
yeah, let's talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, we have. Yeah, just once.
Well,
which is the optimal number of times to test something in SEO. Yeah. You should never test things more than once. You should do it once,
And
then
never control the variables either.
Well, yeah, never
control
control
the
any. You should absolutely never control any variables because Google wants you to try and control for variables. So you should also, at the same time, you should put up 50 new pages of content and build 826 links so that you can really make sure it was the schema that moved the needle. And then as soon as you've done it, you should go on a 12-month speaking tour talking about your expertise in local structured data because you've just hit it out the park on your first swing. Why would you test any more? Get on the speaking tour, boys.
Right. See, that's reverse psychology against Google, and that's how you win. Beat them at their own game.
Well, you beat them at their own game by not doing SEO. I mean, just get on that speaking tour. Who was it? The shit SEO was tweeting about that. He said, like, imagine being a plumber, but you didn't do any plumbing. You just spent all of your time talking to other plumbers about how they could learn how to teach other plumbers how to plumb and sell courses to them. That's kind of the online marketing industry right now. Strongly recommend old Kevin follow the shit SEO if you want. If you kind of know what's going on in the SEO industry and you follow him, you'll probably die like at least once a week from one of his tweets because.
I'm sorry, who's this?
Kevin, is it Bland? Yeah, he's at the shit SEO. Absolutely awesome. Get following him. Covers all the main he covers all the main conferences. For example, he tweeted out that he strongly recommended that female SEOs didn't go to one of the official sponsored pool parties at Mozcon. He gives you the insider tips to stay safe. Just a quality.
That's amazing.
So at the shit SEO, follow, retweet everything he tweets. I'll be covering why you should do that later on in one of the later news items.
Cool. So, big news. Steve has a guest post out this week.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was hoping to cover this with you guys before I did the guest post so that we could like give them a little video of us talking about it on the show, but I think we were absent Vin that week, so hence his hat picture on all of the shows. He's doing a 4-week hat punishment to reward him for not turning up twice in a row. What kind of person has 2 weeks on vacation now? Living like a king. He's going to have 7 weeks this year with the new content management system. He's just going to be...
I wasn't even on vacation. I was hanging out with Garrett and in Minnesota.
That was the first week. You were on a train or something the next week. I don't know.
I was coming back from a meeting in Philadelphia. But yeah.
But yeah, this was just a quick kind of Q&A. And it's just talking about Shopify, which I know Garrett didn't enjoy at first, but then we've just kind of done nothing and waited for ages, and it suddenly popped. And Vin's been helping us out with the content now that it's kind of popped. But it just kind of sat there. We didn't do anything for months. It's got like 7 links, a bunch of pages. We got one of our team just to literally write like in an hour. So they were just churning it out quickly just to fill the site up. And we were frustrated. We were like, it must be something to do with Shopify, or maybe it is. Maybe like because so many people are opening their stores on Shopify, Google has a longer wait before they rank you versus if you self-host your own store. I guess you can make.
We did find that crazy robots that text file.
There were a couple of things, but that was months ago, and then it suddenly popped just out of the blue, like when Garrett mentioned a couple of shows ago. But yeah, so I mean, we've gone from not really liking Shopify to thinking, okay, yeah, like you just have to be a little bit patient when you launch your new store. It's not going to be like when you launch a new WordPress blog. You can just write a really long article, stick it up, and you can probably rank if it's a low competition thing. You're going to have to wait a little bit. But one of the things they were asking was like, guys apparently and girls, I guess, starting their Shopify stores are just immediately just pounding the Facebook ads. So where do they get started? And my kind of thing is, I was saying really, yeah, SEO can be one of the things you do to get started, but you've got to be sure that it's going to be worth it for you in your niche and you're going to have enough budget to get there. Like what I really recommend against people doing is like spending $1,000 a month if they need to be spending 10 and then stopping after 3 months, because you've just wasted $3,000. There's not anything you've got out of it. So one of my main things to say was that if SEO is one of your diversification strategies away from just running ads, make sure you fully understand what that's going to involve in terms of how far ahead your competitors are on links. And I gave Vin a little mention for his 24 hours of SEO presentation.
Thank you.
Him, Nick, and Jared are still some of the most ones people mentioned to me that they enjoyed. So hopefully all 3 of them will present again. Garrett and I aren't going to try and present because we were too tired. Vin has to do the whole 24 hours and deliver a blockbuster presentation as his punishment. I think we'll give him like 8 slots.
Yeah.
It's going to be on schema.
I'll do active site teardowns or like build an entire niche site from scratch in 8 hours.
So one of the questions I thought was kind of difficult to answer, because it was like e-commerce websites usually don't have any content. What can they harness to boost their rankings without content? And my answer was kind of in the first sentence covers it. I think as an e-commerce store, being light on content in the first place is a huge mistake. So I'll throw to Vin to answer properly from the content side. For an e-commerce store that's just been doing ads before, what's the first kind of content they need to start adding, and what's their strategy look like?
I mean, it depends on the page. You're going to have your top level category pages, and then you're going to have your subcategory pages, and then you're going to have your product description pages. But before you even put content on them or even spend money on content, you could focus on the HTML elements that are heavily weighted for SEO. So your title tag, your H1 tag, bullet lists, stuff like that. That'll be like the first step, and then
I guess, in all seriousness, going back to the schema comment, obviously your review schema, I don't know, Garrett, you all know, does Shopify handle review schema and all that kind of stuff? Price schema?
I've never tried, but I'm sure if you can, it would be difficult.
Okay.
I wouldn't, well, the review schema is really for user-generated reviews.
Yep.
So,
well, of course, but you're going to have user-generated reviews on your store, aren't you?
And I actually think I'm going to end up doing a post on Within the Flow as well on content optimization for SEO or e-commerce rather. But something I'll be talking about is really how to merge SEO and user experience together on your e-commerce website between, because obviously on a product description page, you're not going to have 2,000 words of text because that'll stick out like a sore thumb. And when you're trying to rank any page on Google, you want to match the intent that's currently on the first page.
I don't know. I mean, you say you're not going to, but some people are going to do it because many years ago I worked with a client who did have like 8,000 words jammed in a hidden box in a tab.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. More content is usually better, but you have to also be within the box of the space you're operating in. So if you're all, you're doing iPhones, an iPhone private page, and you have 10 pages that are 200 words, if you do 300 words, that's how you make the win. And then you just have to look for, to get that extra 100 words, you have to look for supplemental, useful content that somebody on the page would get use out of. So what I like to do on a product page is I add things like how to use the iPhone, or iPhone tips, or who should use the iPhone. Is it for grandma or is it for college kid? And things like that. We found that really helps with time on site, and that boosts up rankings.
Cool. Well, we'll expect a more detailed update when we're sharing your Within the Flow.
Yeah. Harris is a cool guy, man. I got to talk to him for a while today on Slack.
Yeah, it seems like they've got a really cool community. I think Garrett's been invited in, hopefully.
Yeah,
Cool.
Facebook.
I joined up on the Facebook group today also.
Cool. So you can catch up with Vin and Garrett within the flow. But yeah, he seems to run a really good community, and he's if you look at his previous interviews, he's just constantly bringing people in to share stuff that's going to be really useful to the community. So if you're running a small e-commerce shop and you're just dependent on Facebook now, and even if you just want to improve what you're doing on your advertising, they're sharing a lot of cool stuff. So I think it's going to be, I mean, he's 2.5x the number of links he has to this site since the start of the year. So I think it's going to be a really huge community by the end of the year, or even let alone next year.
Yeah, and he's an old school affiliate guy too. So he had some big wins in with some of his own affiliate sites. Yeah,
he's one of us. He's one of us degenerates then.
Yeah, for sure. But cool, man. I hope this post works out for you. You got any feedback from it yet or no?
Yeah, not yet. They're starting their big push on it over the weekend, I think, on Facebook and stuff. So we'll see. I mean, this is one I did more just. I can't remember how we started speaking. He was just. I think he just pinged me with a couple of questions.
Yeah.
You know, some of these people are probably a year away from hiring someone to do their outreach, but I always think, you know, you help people start making some money. They start, you know, they'll get bored with it and they'll spend it at some point. And even the ones that don't, you know, we've helped some people out. So, I mean, I think that's what the whole Builder Society crash course is about. I mean, most of the people that read that, you know, they just need the help, and they're going to actually make their first money and do well for the first time online because of what Builder Society did, and because of the people, especially the people that gave up way more time than me. I mean, like Carter did, like, I don't know, 7 of the chapters, and Ryu on there did a whole bunch, and there's a few other people who did 3 or 4 chapters. I mean, there's people that gave up like 2 weeks, 3 weeks of their time almost in writing for it. I mean, I gave up 3 days writing mine, but that's really pretty light compared with the intensity of some people's efforts. But no one's expecting to get, you know, more than a tiny conversion directly from people that are at that level where they're reading the crash course. But you've got to play a really long game, because we all want to be in business in like 8 years. So helping some of these people out on the ground floor.
Right. It's just about creating those relationships, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I don't really worry about, are we going to get anything this year? I mean, typically when you do a guest post somewhere, you do get, you know, a decent chunk of business. But it's not anywhere near as much as you'll get years later.
Right.
You know, we get business from where like someone's left a comment about us in a discussion on an article that we didn't even write. We were just involved in helping prepare or something 2 years ago. And someone's like, oh, I'm only coming to you because so-and-so that I recognize mentioned you in such and such a site's comments, which I respect and stuff. It's like, you lay the groundwork and you get the benefits years later. So it's better to just try and help people out with stuff. So this is one that it wasn't so much as like brand builders is a huge audience of people. And obviously a lot of them are like the last one that I did that we spoke about. This one's more just more ground level people, a lot of people trying to make their first store work well. Most of them haven't done any SEO, judging by the audience. So you're not going to go from not doing any SEO to thinking, right, let's get 3,000 a month into links. But if we can get them started doing their content right, maybe place a couple of small orders with them at Word Agents, start growing it, and then they're like, oh, holy shit, I don't have to spend any more money once it's ranking.
Right.
And it just keeps coming in automatically. Then, you know, 1 out of 1,000 of them are going to end up being customers, because then they're like, well, how do I scale this up? I can only build 10 links a month and it's killing me. I need 20.
Yeah, and after they see their first successes with it, they just, you know, start reinvesting too. So not only are they just purchasing that initial campaign, you know, they're going to start building new campaigns with us. And and
yeah, like when
we get to grow with it.
like we were talking about the candle site earlier, like Garrett did a bit, put some content up, got annoyed with it, left it, did nothing for a few months, and then suddenly it popped. So even just having a small effort, you'll see some results in some of the low competition stuff you target, and you'll think, oh wait a minute, that's free for me now. I can start targeting some more stuff. So I think that's kind of cool. Just getting started. I think if you can share content that helps people just get started, just do something. They'll start seeing some results and they'll start to enjoy the fruits of that. If you make things too difficult and too expensive and try and sell people straight away, it's like they'll never get started. Like they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I think that's the problem SEO's got. People are expecting people that haven't got anything yet to spend money that they haven't got yet. Like if we just kind of give people a leg up, once people have got money, they're more than happy to spend it. You just can't expect people to believe in witchcraft. Let them taste the magic themselves after they did like 20 guest posts by themselves over 6 months, wrote some content based on Vin's video, and then suddenly they're making an extra $750 a month after doing just that tiny bit of work. They think, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I can see how this might work now. This makes total sense. It's like, it's just so much easier to learn a lesson if you do it yourself a little bit. So you can.
Well, it's not say a couple of months. It's definitely maybe 12 months plus a couple of months. But once you get through that initial first year of putting a couple hours a week into your project, then it's off to the races.
Well, I was more thinking about, the kind of people, they get really excited. You do it hard like crazy for 2 months.
Yeah.
And you've 25 links, you've got your 20 new pages, and then you're like, oh, this SEO is not working. And they just kind of ignore it. By the end of the year, they'll be making an extra $500, $600, $700 a month on their organic. Sure. And then they'll think, oh.
Yeah, it's pretty hard not to make that much money, and that's a very reasonable amount that you said, and is a year of putting 5 to 10 hours a week into a website without getting paid too much when you can make that forever thereafter? I don't think so, And it's pretty damn gratifying once you start making that $500 a month, and then 3 months later it's $1,200.
The one thing I'd say is to care a little bit about the niche you're in if you're going to be doing all the work yourself. Like It's super easy just to pick a niche that looks easy. If you've got the budget to pay Vin to do all the writing, us to build all the links, because someone on our team gives a shit about whatever weird topic you're in. If you hate it, like you pick, I'm going to do a baby dummy affiliate site or something with these new organic wood baby dummies or some weird thing, and like you don't want kids and you hate children or something, like you're going to just 2 months in going to want to kill yourself, even if it's the easiest money you ever would have made. Like if you're going to have to do it yourself, try and pick something, even if it's harder, that you'll enjoy, because you'll still get further. Once you're paying other people to do all the work, then you pick the easiest things to rank for because someone else is doing the work, and also you've proven it to yourself with your first project, so you're not going to lose motivation out of boredom because you're just enjoying the process of ranking something else. Like, I mean, I don't find anything more or less interesting now. Every project's the same.
But once you have your first win and you have that site that's consistently earning you money, you're not as stressed to get it ranking. You can kind of take the second project and so forth and take your time to do it right, because you have that first site that's bringing in the money, and you could do whatever is in front of you. You can let it take a little bit longer to really do it better and do it the right way. I think for a lot of us, the first project is like a rush to make money, which makes sense. You're giving time away, but once you have that first win, it's a lot less pressure to rush to get results.
Yeah, and I think sell your first win earlier than you would ideally like if it was one of your later projects, because I know a whole bunch of people, and even Even Joe Sinkwitz, I watched one of his videos before Ungagged in November. He did like a kind of pre-interview with someone talking about his upcoming projects, and one of his big regrets from back in the day was they had all these sites and projects that were just printing money, but they were propped up with like just like $1 million a month's worth of paid rented links and stuff like that. And when they got penalized, they were worthless immediately. And you know, I've met people at conferences as recently as this year that are on their second go round building a whole bunch of sites, and they're all doing well again, but they don't have the lump sums in the bank if they'd unloaded earlier. Like, holding sites is always a risk, and if you're not set for life yet, sure, your site might be worth 2 million in 3 years, but if you can take 500, 750 now, and it's your first exit, and you can pay your mortgage off, take it. Do that first. Take bigger risks later on. I mean, some of the most successful people I know were able to just burn money on their big gambles because they didn't need it anymore. You know, they'd had their first...
You have your house paid off. Presumably you have your car paid off. And you probably have a couple $100,000 in the bank to live off for a few years. What's the worst that can really happen? After 3 years, you have to go back to work? You know, it's like,
I don't know. I think one guy, his wife wasn't very happy, but...
Does she work?
Yeah.
No.
Well.
No, and they're worth 100 million now, so I guess she's probably happy now. But yeah, I mean,
that's exactly what I did too. I mean, you know, I had my big win at the end of 2015, early 2016, and I took the money and ran, and I bought myself a house. I got married, and it was great. But now,
and the house was the cheap part.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but what you gonna call it? But now I'm slowly working my way back to having another site like that. I mean, I have a lot of sites, and in total, you know, every month, if they bring in what would be considered like a middle class income. But I was used to those huge wins every month of you know, mid 5 figures and for very little work after I front loaded the work. So
yeah,
I'm
excited to get back to that. You know.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah, we are as well. I mean, before Garrett was old enough to not just be in the playground or something, I don't know. I was foolishly hanging on to things that I thought would be worth more money, despite them being very saleable at the time. Not for the kind of money Vin got. It would have been a few $100,000 less than what Vin got, for sure. Yeah, and back then maybe take another 100,000 off just because the multiples were crapper back then. But I should have sold.
Yeah.
2 or 3 I should have sold because they're worthless now. One of them, I think Garrett's figured out that we can turn back around again. So one of them might end up being one that Garrett and I sell. But
yeah,
I should have sold them back in the day before Garrett even started. You know? Yeah, the poker site should have been sold. Anyway, I mean, you know, because I wasn't even an expensive poker coach. Like, we were selling all this training. I wasn't even like I'm more.
You had all of us idiots giving you our free time doing stuff and growing your community.
I gave you no, because I got you free money on
not
it.
Free, not exactly free, but it's like you gave us
like
$50
I got
to make
you.
a video, and then
I got a poker site to give you $500 to make some videos on there, and all you had to do is
no, you gave MJ $500. I got 50.
Oh wow. Well, you should have played higher stakes and done more cocaine like that guy.
Yeah.
He was crazy,
no,
man.
I mean, we got an example though, just in general, how like a niche like online poker died really quickly, and even if poker was still around, would that site be so valuable? And it was actually a pretty tight-knit community, but a big authority poker site.
It was the tight-knitness of the community.
Yeah.
I was a better marketer than I am.
Get out of here.
I've become addicted to the teat of SEO and Google.
Yeah.
And that easy traffic. Like
SEO is just so easy.
you couldn't rank #1 for affiliate poker affiliate, so we did like comedy videos, and
Right.
some of Garrett's were pretty good towards the end. And you know, we found ways to leak traffic from 2plus2 and PokerTube.com, and we used Dig. We manipulated Dig massively, same way people manipulate Reddit now. And then all these years later, you'd think I would be one of the Reddit masters because of the way we were number one on Dig every time we fucking did anything. And I wouldn't have a clue how to get anywhere on Reddit. We've become addicted to the magic of Google. So I wish I'd kept some of my magic in other areas, and traffic leaking, and super jealous of people like Carter who are still obsessed with it because it's super powerful shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, sell early, boys. And so on to the New York Times. So following up on BuzzStream's...
we missed our speed update here.
Oh, sorry.
I'll just talk about that really quick.
Yeah.
Everyone knows site speed is becoming an issue. Honestly, it's more for user experience, and with the latest comments from Google, you know, they didn't give, obviously, a specific time that your site needs to load, but the gist of it is, you know, if you have a site that loads in 1 to 3 seconds, that's pretty average for the internet. If you have a site that's loading in 7 seconds or 8 seconds, you have some issues you need to work out. And the new update is basically saying, if your site is loading in a long amount of time, and you do the work to get it down to like 3 or 4 seconds, you're probably going to see an increase in rankings because user experience, right? That's just a general gist of it. But a lot of people were thinking, oh, if my site's loading at 4 seconds and I cut it down to 1.5 seconds, which I found out in the last couple weeks is not a very hard thing to do. Everyone else is thinking, well, I should get a huge boost. But I think it was Gary or John. I think it was Gary Isles that said, no, this is just more of a, we're going to penalize sites that are taking forever to load versus the people that are already loading in like 3
Well, there's already a ranking factor, you know, for marginal benefit for being quicker.
Yeah.
I guess they realized it wasn't motivating people enough, so they've added a more punishing
like your
at
site
the
just
top
shouldn't
end.
be loading in 7 seconds. Like, if you're on WordPress, you just WordPress super cache, do some browser stuff in your htaccess file. It's really easy stuff to do. There's really no reason your site can't load in 7 seconds unless you're doing like a database query of some ridiculous stuff, but then you're probably not ranking a site like that. So it's
is it Carter or Ryu that has a chapter on that over at Builder Society? I'm sure one of those two wrote about it.
It's probably Ryazaki, yeah.
Yeah, he gave me
Yeah.
some advice. And like, there's also stuff you can look into on WordPress. You know, you use SQLite, which is really, in itself, is a shitty database, but it works well for WordPress because sites are small, but it's slow. And you can get, I forget the name of the plugin. I'll look it up after the show, but you can like monitor your query times and do some adjustments. You can shave off 1/10 of a second here. But as far as ranking is concerned, it's like once you hit, like, I obviously don't know the number, but I would say if you're under 3 seconds, you're probably fine. Once you hit that 3 seconds, then you're just doing it for your users. So goody goody. But rankings, you know, it's not going to help much.
I'm just seeing how quickly my unoptimized Drive 3 site loads, and my new it doesn't look very good.
Hey,
for some reason, my site, when I was using PageSpeed Insights today, it was telling me PageSpeed unavailable. Have you ever run into that?
I don't look at Google's. I just use Pingdom.
Yeah.
Okay, so unoptimized. Thrive themes. I just moved my personal site over to it because it was too much. It was a bootstrap site before, and I just couldn't be bothered dealing with typing anything. So I just wanted to use their visual builder to make it look like our new branding and look like my business card. It loads in 1.88 seconds on Pingdom, and it's completely unoptimized. I've done, you know, nothing to make it load quickly. It's just that's out of the box.
UK mortgage lead gen site. It only has one image on it on the homepage, but it loads in like, it's well under a second. And that's just with, you know, it takes like 10 minutes of your time to just install a plugin. And I just copy and paste a really generic browser-side cache, like 5 lines of code into the htaccess file, and do like whatever the other couple small things are. Like super simple stuff, you can speed up your site. And actually, it's like bringing me back to all the Facebook groups I was in that I was kicked out of. A lot of people were paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to have someone do site speed optimization. And it's like, yeah, it's really cool to have your site load in under a second. But like, if you look at it, I wonder how many of those people were just getting totally ripped off, where they're loading a home page that only has one image on it, and 10 minutes of their time, they could be under a second. Or if they had
I suppose though, think about it the way we feel like when we're using our system. So there's a page I haven't optimized yet. Basically, most of the system I didn't know enough about Postgres or which database I was going to be using or anything when I coded it. So I just used all Python code to access the database, Django's built-in abstractions. I didn't use any of Django's built-in Postgres optimizations. So as one of our pages loads in 2.5 seconds, it compared to the rest of the site where I have used the Postgres optimizations, it drives us absolutely insane. So I think one thing people need to be cautious of is if, obviously that was my own fault, I improved the rest of the site and left this page because it was more of a pain in the ass. So you can, but obviously what's happening is everyone else is all the other pages and you're the annoying page that's too slow. So although Google set the target at 4 seconds or whatever Garrett thinks it might be,
well, yeah, it's just an arbitrary number. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever they've picked. Yeah. If everyone else does what Garrett's done and gets down to 1.3, 1.4 seconds,
that's interesting.
and you're at 3, it's like the mark is what everyone else is doing. And I always say to when we did consulting, I always used to say to small businesses, you know, you looked at, like a high school photo from the 80s. Like all those kids had cool hairstyles for their time, you know what I mean? But you pop one of them into a graduation class now, they'd look pretty. Well, they'd be back in fashion. They'd be hipsters now. But you know what I mean? Like if everyone else is changing, you have to keep up with the trends a little bit. And so if the speed everywhere else is, 3 seconds might be. Oh yeah, no one's bothered now. You do fine. It might be driving your visitors insane in a year's time if people take this Google thing seriously. Because like Garrett was saying, you're going to take it seriously and you're not going to go from 7 seconds to 4. You're going to turn all this shit on and suddenly you're going to be 1.2. And if everyone does that and you're the one who doesn't bother, you're, oh yeah, my 3 seconds is okay. Suddenly you're the 7-second guy.
Right.
So I think that if people start jumping on it, because the simple stuff has such a big impact, I don't think anyone's going to be happy over a second. We're going to have a whole like internet of Carters posting their pingdom 0.04 microsecond.
And I'd like to have someone on the show that's really good, because like with our skincare site, I think it loads in about 1.5 to 1.75 seconds.
Well, they would tell us to stop using a page building theme and
the
ourselves.
biggest issue, I think we're losing about 3/4 of a second on if someone hits the non-SSL, just goes from HTTP to HTTPS, we lose like nearly a second in that redirect. And it's something in Apache or Nginx that I haven't been
it's Apache on our server. It's just a normal.
And the hosting company that we use, KnownHost, and they're actually it's a secret. Like, you're not supposed to say KnownHost is really good, because now people are using them and they're jacking up their prices. But
yeah, KnownHost sucks. Don't use them.
Yeah.
Prices go down. No, they're really good. Unfortunately, they are really good.
Probably,
even though the guy just like straight up told me to go fuck myself when I asked him to appear on the 24 Hours of SEO for charity.
Did he really?
They're too cool for school, those guys. But even despite his obnoxious, I wasn't. To a British person, his reply was obnoxious. To an American, it was just, just a standard business reply probably. But I found his reply to be obnoxious as a British person, but he wasn't to know that. But despite him upsetting me, I still can't say anything bad about KnownHost.
didn't
And I
even know
probably
you
never
asked.
will. Yeah, well, he kept putting things on LinkedIn about SEO and marketing. I'm like, well, I'd love to hear a host on the 24 hours. You know what I mean? But no.
But even with their increased prices lately, for the amount of service that you get, and it's their support is like within minutes. And if you have a critical problem, like your server's down, it's within a minute. Like they're on it, they're into
That's
it.
what I said to Garrett when he showed me some cheaper pricing. I was like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do if you go on holiday for a week?
Yeah. But like they went in,
Well,
we were having
can't deal with that shit if you're on holiday. I need known host.
some of our sites were loading slow, and I didn't know that. I assumed one of our servers was like upgrading to PHP 7, which is much faster than 5, and no one really
Much
uses 6.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. This is obviously a big plug for no-nos, but they'll go in and they'll just look at it and be like, okay, it's like almost having an IT consultant that knows servers, and I mean, how much are you really paying for like a dedicated machine? $150 a month, and you're getting. If you want to ask them questions, they'll never ask you for like consulting prices. They'll just keep answering your questions. Like it well worth it. And
yeah, they reply in 2 minutes, and you get a completely comprehensible answer from a. I don't know where they're all based. Maybe I don't care where they're all based. They could all be outsourced for all I know, but they all speak perfect English and give you an immediate, knowledgeable, answer. They're all Linux specialists. Really, really impressed with the quality of the support. I mean, because we have hosting elsewhere for some special needs that we wouldn't want to use a mainstream host for, and they reply fairly quickly. A couple of hours isn't bad for a detailed reply. So, but I mean, known host just makes it look insane because they reply in like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
that's great.
Like you get your first reply in 12 seconds saying, "Hi, I'm Billy. I'm looking at it. Here's what I'm looking at."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Right, I've looked at this. This is what I think about this. I've looked at this. Oh, and while I was in there, I noticed this. You might want to do this."
Yeah.
Some totally unrelated thing that you didn't even ask about that he thinks you can fix to get better. It's like.
That's great.
Yeah. So
I get that kind of service with WPX, but I was just talking about this. They give you that kind of service because they don't have a cPanel. So they have guys on staff basically doing for you what a cPanel would have done if they ponied up the money to pay for the cPanel license. But
well, you can opt out of cPanel, I think, with known host as well. I'm assuming
they charge an extra $1 a month to have cPanel, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the cPanel. Yeah, we're already giving you 100 whatever. But yeah, no, really impressed with known hosts support and stuff. It's pretty amazing. I just wish that one site would redirect properly from HTTP to HTTPS. That's one that we can't really figure out. So if anyone's an expert in that, more so than the 6 experts Garrett's already spoken to.
Well,
it's
just weird because a normal redirect doesn't take that much time on that server. But
it's instant.
For whatever reason it is, going from HTTP to the HTTPS version of any page is always close to a second longer, and I just don't understand why.
Yeah. Let me just check, actually.
Yeah, we were talking about it today in the Dan Ray's super cool white hat SEO and link building group Zoom thing.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't do it. Like my site's on the same server, it doesn't do it on that. Both load times identical. Wrong URL and right URL. Identical load time. So it's just that one site.
Yeah. I just don't know at this point.
It must be. It's got to be a WordPress configuration issue. I just can't believe you've had a couple of expert friends look at the server configuration. Known host have looked at it. It must be something in our WordPress install that isn't configured correctly. I mean, I'm at the point where I feel like downloading the whole site in WordPress export and re-uploading it to a new install on the same server. I mean,
the good thing is all the SERPs on Google are going straight to HTTPS. They're going straight to SSL.
Oh, of course, yeah. It doesn't affect.
You can always do the old trick of turning up the theme, turning up all the plugins, and then test it one by one as you turn them back on.
Strange.
What's that?
I wonder if there's a strange plugin.
Yeah. Could be something.
It could be. It could be something weird. Yeah, maybe one of the security plugins or something. I don't know.
Or if you are using Cache or whatever it is, you can just clear the cache and see if that does something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be something WordPress related though that we've got slowing it down. I don't think it's plausible that all these people have looked at the server configuration and not found it yet.
Well, around the topic of SEO, I was talking to a friend last night.
While we're on the topic of SEO,
or SSL, sorry, not SEO. I'm getting my acronyms messed up.
Well, we're very rarely on the topic of SEO here on SEO UnMasked.
He's not the first one that mentioned. So he had an issue with he did a migration to SSL, and then a couple of random pages just got totally de-indexed for like pretty much no reason. He asked me to take a look. I'm like, I don't know, nothing's out of whack. He doesn't have any messages in Search Console. There's no site-wide penalties. There's nothing. The site still ranks fine. It's just 2 pages got de-indexed. I'm like, you know, the only thing I can think of, he had some weird content thing where it's ripped off. He's like, no, it's all genuine, unique, good content. I'm like, yeah. And I was talking to someone else this morning where they did an SSL migration, and something's just goofy with getting everything what I'm surmising is something's kind of goofy. If you do an SSL migration, Google may or may not be having a hard time recrawling everything. And it seems like some people are getting a few random pages just de-indexed. And I did some Googling, and I found it actually in the Moz forums. Someone said they've had it happen on a bunch of sites, and if you wait a few days to a week, it gets recrawled and everything's back. But it's still really strange, and I don't have any concrete answers on it.
Just generally with 301s, like if you take a whole domain and page by page 301 it to, like, say a company buys another company, and they take all the content, put it on their site, 301 it page by page, the Google index will show the original page for ages sometimes. Like, it really takes a while for all of those pages to get the 301s honored and the index to be updated. And you'll see regional variations, like different Google servers and different indexes will update at different times. And I guess that's just part of their optimization for dealing with such a huge amount of data. They don't try and push everything instantaneously all over the place. So I'm not surprised to hear that it's similar in HTTPS migrations, because that's effectively just a 301. It's the same situation. It takes a while and things can go wrong. So, but we've seen less horror stories. Like when it first came out and everyone was trying to migrate to SSL, there were people seeing quite big drops, and then you had to fight back. I think these days it's pretty smooth for most people that do it right. Right. Yeah. Google's got a pretty good handle on it now compared with before.
Right, yeah.
So what's up with this New York Times article here?
Oh, it's just more influencer marketing fun, because, you know, I like to talk about that now that we do influencer marketing. So it's fake accounts on social media, and Rand made a really good point that, like, Twitter, if you just let them know, like, because he's always being trolled, Rand, obviously, like, you know, being the troll bait of the SEO world is a tough life, but someone's got to live it. He points out, like, Twitter can deal with this, even though they've got... Excuse me a second.
Uh-oh. I think somebody just burped and I was left alone on the show.
Sorry, I was... it just kept cutting out, like I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear you or see anything. I was like, this isn't working. So yeah, like, so he makes a good point that Twitter's got a pretty good handle on, he can be like, this is a fake Rand, and it's gone immediately kind of thing. And Facebook has got like several fake Oprahs.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, I'm not I'm not Oprah, for God's sake. Like, why is Facebook having a problem with this? And it's kind of crazy. And then this New York Times article, it was really funny. Like, it tells the story of two famous people that had an argument on Twitter, and one of them was really embarrassed that his fake person had an argument with what he thought was the real person. So when he meets him in real life at one of their famous person dinner parties or whatever, I forget the names of who it was, and I'm not going to scroll and read the whole article live on the air to find it again. And probably no one cares anyway who these famous people were. But he says to the other famous person, "Oh, I mean, I just wanted to let you know after everything that happened, I don't have a Twitter account." And the other person says back to him, "Well, that's not unusual. I don't either." So he couldn't even tell that he hadn't offended the real, you know. It's like,
well, they also said something scary. I mean, you know, people were showing up at this country music stars concerts backstage and handing them like handing the guy divorce papers, saying, "Okay, I'm getting divorced so we could be together," because apparently they're carrying on relationships with.
Yeah, people's grandparents thought they were marrying a 30-year-old country star or something, and left their husbands for 40 years after. It's really depressing because it just shows how you know, these frauds against. I mean, not that you're elderly at 60, I guess, but people who are less sophisticated about how realistic fraud can be now are super vulnerable, I think, to things. And online is easier because when it's all words and pictures, like, you could take a picture of a famous country star and you can Photoshop it onto your town really easily. Say, "Oh, I was just having coffee at this place, and just round the corner from you. I wish I could have dropped by, but I know you're still with your husband. Send me some money, and I'll, you know, like it. You better get him divorced soon." I mean, I don't really understand what the motivation for any of these people is, other than they're just sick, sadistic fucks or something. But the way you can do the fraud, it's so easy to do that, you know, and people. There's some pictures where, like, the photoshopping's so good you'd have to hire an expert to spot the photoshopping. Other times, obviously, it's obvious, but when you've got someone who's never really looked at a picture and thought, "Is this fake? Was he really in my town?"
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It kind of followed on from the one I shared about the robo-influencers, which was a bit more lighthearted, and the week before with the fake followers and fake accounts and fake retweets a few weeks back. There's a lot of fake nonsense in influencer marketing, and luckily my Spark Toro research has uncovered the solution for you all later in the discussion, so I won't spoil that now.
Well, this next one's kind of fun. Your itty.bitty site.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing that the internet allows you to create a whole website within the URL. Like, there's no hosting. The URL has all the information that the service needs to render the site.
Yeah, so basically you just get this open document if you go to itty.bitty.site, and you can write whatever you want on it, and as you write, you can actually see the URL change dynamically. It's all encoded, so you know that your information isn't in the URL itself, but then you can go ahead and share.
It's encrypted and shrunk, isn't it? So
yeah. I've been trying to get it to render HTML, but that's not working.
No, it's not going to. It's not going to be able to do that.
I mean, it did say in the article itself that the guy was using it as like a redirect. So I was trying to figure out how he was getting it to do that. But
play that much. I just put a few sentences on and saw that it worked.
Yeah.
But I just think this kind of stuff, I don't share much this kind of thing, but just for really temporary things, quick things you want to, like, to get around, you know, like someone was using it to get around Twitter's word limits, because it'll show the preview and then people can click to read more and go straight to the site. Right. But it's just as quick as Twitter. It's kind of like it's kind of like a super fast micro blogging I don't know. It's just the kind of thing I really enjoy. Like, I know I ruined Garrett's evening with that art one where he had to click 475,000 times to find the art that he didn't want to find in the end, whatever. But I like these kind of weird projects that use existing web technologies for something cool. So that's my weird technology use of the week link. I don't know what you'd use it for.
Cool.
I don't know what you'd use it for SEO. I don't know. I mean, I guess just for.
That's what my mind goes to immediately. How can I use this to rank better?
I mean, you could. Like sometimes it's like you share a link with a bunch of people you're sharing some information with. You could put some information on here, share the link, but it doesn't exist on the web.
Right. It's just a document.
The link it gives the document. Yeah, like it's. I don't know. I think there's probably a lot of interesting uses. I guess it'd be kind of cool if someone who's watching.
Isn't there a way to turn your browser into a notepad? Hang on.
It's called Google Docs.
No. Turn it back. Hang on a sec. It's content editable. All right, so if you, I'm going to share this in our Skype chat. I'll share it in the SEO UnMasked chat. If you type this
for after the show.
Yeah, if you type the string into a browser, it turns any browser window into a notepad that does render HTML. But
okay, cool.
I don't think you can really share it, so it's only in front of you. So that doesn't fix our problem either of getting links on these type of tools here.
Yeah. I mean, if you put a nice link in it, you could build links. Use it for reputation management, because I'm assuming their domain will have a nice authority. Anyway,
right,
if someone got a link in this bad boy, can you send me instructions? Because we also do reputation management. So if you and this would be helpful for us. So we'll give you a bounty. We'll buy you. As long as you can outdrink Garrett, we'll keep buying you old fashions until until you pass out before him.
So what's up with this Twitter war? I didn't really get to dig into
this is the main topic. Well, for the news, the feature topic on our image. So there was madness at Mozcon. So all right, so there's a lot of stuff said about iPool rank. So I feel like I'm being like Trump here, because I would never say this, but I hear some people are saying I can't find any evidence of this. People are saying that iPool rank had some kind of penalty, pivoted to doing technical SEO and doing all of their presentations technical because they got slapped by Google and they've got a grudge against Google as a result. I mean, looking at their Ahrefs, looking on their SEMrush, I can't see any evidence they've lost more than a little bit of traffic here and there. Nothing that would be out of the ordinary for an aggressive SEO company with a bit of flux. The odd 30% down and up here and there. It's like maybe there is a penalty. It doesn't look like it. So I'm discounting.
Trump, I just got a message from the Wall Street Journal.
I wasn't trying to have a segue into.
Trump just told your Prime Minister May or whoever she is that if they do Brexit, he's going to kill trade deals.
With who?
With you.
He says.
What?
He tweeted Brexit's amazing and Britain's top of the queue for trade deals like a few weeks ago. Like he says something different every week. Yeah. Like I'm like, Brexit's already done. It's not like it's kind of too late for him to influence whether Brexit happens. It's Brexit's done anyway.
Yeah.
We've been banned from talking about the EU by. How did you manage to get the EU up? It's me that always gets told off for bringing the EU up.
It pops up on my phone.
You just can't help yourself. Like, you want to talk about the EU. See, you Americans, you love it. You love talking about the EU.
Well, I know it's, but I know most Americans do, but I don't.
It's pretty funny how shit the EU is. Anyway, So I don't think there's much substance to iPool Rank having a grudge against. You guys are going to be shocked in a minute from what I say to conclude this discussion. So I don't think there's any merit to iPool Rank having a grudge against Google. I can't see any real evidence of it. I think the guy loves Matt Cutts. I think he literally full on loves him. Like we spoke about it before, like we love John Mueller and him having the balls to step up and take on this role. But he's not Matt Cutts, and I think that's not an insult to him. He's a really smart guy. He's dealing with all the shit he has to deal with, but he's not Matt Cutts. You know, Matt Cutts is a he's a 1% at a company like Google where everyone's got a fucking PhD. You know, 99% of Google is never going to be Matt Cutts, whatever they do. But anyway, I can't see the grudge. But so I looked at the slides because John Mueller kind of is really like he's going on about fat shaming and Mozcon being disrespectful, and I'm thinking, Jesus, Rand's only been gone for a year, and it was like the social justice conference of the SEO world, and now it's now they're fat shaming people actually at Google. Like, things are really maybe I misjudged Rand and he was keeping a tight lid on a fucking crazy ship at that place or something. I don't know. And then I saw Sarah Bird had like insta apologized, so I was like, holy shit, they actually did have a speaker fat shame someone because the CEO of Mars is apologizing for it. I'm thinking, fuck. I mean, so I was like, oh, we've misjudged Rand. He was keeping the crazy sons of bitches under control all this time. So I looked into it some more, and I found the tweet from one of Moz's staff where they'd shared the slides, and I looked at them, and all it was is there's like 2 slides where the iPool Rank chap, I forget his name, it's Mike maybe or something, I don't know, whatever, don't really care. All he'd done is share like a couple of times where John Mueller was wrong. And he'd gone back on himself on tweets, and he was like, you know, we're relying on these guys for information. You can't trust it anymore because you find out it's wrong, you tell them it's wrong, and then they're like, oh yeah, you know, it was wrong. It was just a nothing, you know. It wasn't offensive. There's no fat shaming on any of the slides. I mean, maybe if you were there, but none of the people who were there who have tweeted about it suggest anything other than. No one even mentions Google when they're talking about this presentation afterwards. It's just a standard technical SEO presentation, waffling on about technical on-page nonsense that, you know, everyone knows you just need to hire a good word agents to write your content for you, and that's your on-page taken care of. But anyway, you know, I guess if you run a 1 million product e-commerce store, you need technical chops, but you know, most of us don't. It was just a normal, boring technical SEO presentation that just happened to have a couple of slides showing that John Mueller was wrong a couple of times. I really couldn't understand where fat shaming came in. No one who'd been seemed to suggest it. And then contradicting, bearing in mind he's still board. I think he still might even be the chairman of the board. Rand tweeted out that back in the day, Google had put pressure on Mozcon not to allow grey hat and black hat speakers, and that he felt that that was the wrong thing because dissenting voices and people criticizing Google is helpful to an SEO conference because you want to hear dissenting voices and you want to hear people criticizing Google and thinking critically about whether what Google said is true. You don't want 20 people to go up and read the Google Webmaster fucking guidelines out to you if you've spent $1,000 going to a conference. You want some fucking information. You want someone to say, here's where Matt was wrong, here's where John was wrong. I don't think Matt was wrong very often. I would probably estimate that to be somewhere around the 0% mark, but he often didn't answer questions on purpose, but you could tell I would say Matt Cutts has probably lied in public around 0 times in his life or something. But you want people that question him anyway. Like, they might be wrong, but you want people that question them at a conference. And it's rare for me to completely back Rand on something, but especially after the CEO of the company, and you know from our previous discussions that I have a lot of respect for Sarah Bird. I even said in that guest post that we just talked about, I think under Sarah Bird's leadership, I wouldn't be surprised to see Moz's data and Moz's performance move ahead of Ahrefs by the end of this year.
So segueing into, like I have an issue with like a lot of the conferences that are put on in the SEO world. Um, there are some good ones. I've never been to Mozcon, so I can't comment on that. But getting people together, and I've been to conferences where I just want to stand up and say, "What the fuck is wrong with you? That is so ridiculous. You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about." It's like Cableland today, saying, let's say I'm going to go be a plumber. I don't know anything about plumbing, so instead of being a plumber, I'm gonna go teach people how to talk about being a plumber at a conference about plumbing, where people are trying to learn how to be a plumber. And it's like, I think it's good that people, I guess I just don't have the balls to stand up and, someone needs to stand up and say, no, you are wrong. And I have it right here. Like, it doesn't matter if it's SEO or any kind of other industry. It's like, because I'm sure this happens in every other conference world of any industry. It's like, you are wrong, and you should not be up here talking. And
I think that's what shocked me about this, because although we've not been big fans of Moz until recently, when Sarah Bird, I must admit, she shocked us when they announced their index is bigger than Ahrefs. Like they'd barely scratched 10% before.
Right.
I mean, that's a big breakthrough. And the way they did it was amazing compared with Ahrefs. Like the stuff we went through with Ahrefs when they rescaled, they couldn't, I don't know, for whatever reason, they panicked, they couldn't cope with, they changed their whole index so it made no sense anymore compared to the old one. Moz has managed to roll out 10xing the size of their index without changing the meaning of what DA20 is.
Right.
DA20 is about where it was before they added all that extra data. Their numbers still mean the same as what they meant before, they're just more accurate. Yeah. Like some sites that had a good DA before are now shit because now they've got more data and they know that it's a shit site. So sites have moved around, but relatively the scale means the same thing. And so for her to have managed that through as well, I'm super impressed with what she's done there, which is why I was shocked to see her instantly apologizing and then find out that probably no one had been fat shamed and it wasn't as bad as it sounded, because but there must have been something said live that is worse than what people are talking about, because like we've said before, John, we've always thought is super cool. The three of us definitely have enjoyed since he started sharing more and he took up the mantle.
I know someone that's there, but I can ask him if, I don't know, I'm sure they had multiple speakers at once. The odds of him being there to see what, or to hear what actually was said, I guess we have like a 20% chance. But.
And if Sarah's apologizing, I'm assuming she must know the line was crossed at some point. Yeah. It just wasn't obvious to anyone who was there, as far as, I mean, I've read, trying to find if it was justified, because my instinct was to trust Sarah and John going into the story, because I have the utmost respect for those two. I'd love to know more, because I feel like there must be more. I mean, there must have been something. Yeah. But if there wasn't, I agree with some of the discussion in the SEO community that's gone on, because apparently there was some abuse at Leeds SEO by a speaker directed at an individual much less well known and much less famous than them. Unjustified abuse by the sounds of it in the community. And so people with powerful platforms, obviously John has a hugely powerful platform. You really hope that it is true that this was genuinely offensive and that something did happen, because if it didn't, it's kind of unfortunate for someone who's so much more powerful than the person who's being targeted and being accused of, because even Mozcon is, there's a lot of competition for SEO conferences. I mean, we've been to a lot, but we don't choose Mozcon just because we're looking for a slightly different size, type of conference, different attendees than Mozcon has. There's a lot of competition in conferences, and someone with a more powerful platform can do a lot of damage, especially because their image is as an inclusive conference and one where thought-provoking things won't be turned down, because they stood up to Google before over the black hat thing. And I think it was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sorry, Martin, if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it was Martin McDonald did a kind of grey hat presentation at Mozcon around the time Google was putting them under pressure not to allow that kind of presentation. Martin, I think, was at Expedia for a lot of time. He's like the head of SEO or whatever. I'm sure it was him that was around the time. Probably can have a look. I'll look on Twitter, see if I can find stuff from back then. But well, it doesn't matter who it was, whether it was Martin or someone else. There was, a lot of pressure around that time, and Mozcon still went ahead with presentations that were. And you remember Distilled, and they dropped Link Love, and they dropped the Don't Tweet This went from Black Hat to not Black Hat, and they dropped Link Love, and it just became Search Love, and all this kind of stuff. They kind of conceded the pressure a little bit, and Mozcon stood their ground on allowing. They had to be, there weren't weird speakers like some of the Black Hat conferences, but within reason, they've allowed the boundaries to be pushed a little bit and some interesting speakers to come along.
Yeah.
So that it can damage their conference brand as well if it's not true. So I don't know. It was the biggest thing going on in terms of discussion, but there just isn't any public evidence or evidence from people who attended Mozcon. I read hundreds of tweets of people who saw the presentation, and all the talks about, I say boring technical SEO stuff just because I'm not a technical SEO. Garrett would probably be like, find it super interesting, something maybe, but just technical SEO stuff. Everyone's like, oh, I really loved how you covered this point. There's no talk of Google at all, and in the presentation, it's 3 slides out of, I don't know, 150 or something ridiculous that talk about Google. I mean, it seems like it was a really small part of the presentation. So, but then, like I say, Sarah Bird, who I have enormous respect for, apologized immediately, which makes me think there must be something to it. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out more as time unfolds. But madness at Mozcon. But otherwise, it sounds like it was a pretty good conference this year. So we might actually have to think about going to one of these years. If it's a convenient time and stuff, we might be there. I doubt it, but we might.
Oh, you want to talk about Spark Toro?
Yeah. So as you guys know, I've been heavily researching Spark
honestly,
Toro.
reading this, I know who did this.
Of course you do. It's the font he always uses. Everything about it.
He doesn't use that font on anything.
Well, who are you thinking of?
I thought you were talking about Rand on this fake site here.
No, it's definitely
No,
not Rand.
this isn't a fake site. This is Rand's new redesign. This is their testing site for the. So you've known for a while Spark Toro is developing their new product. So if you go to sparktoro.net, you can see the real new site. It's one of the main features is they're bringing out a new ego booster created by one of their members of staff called Solomon Doherty. There's the circle jerk activator, which is a really important part of Spark Toro's marketing. And as you know from the previous company, political compliance is very important. If you've got a MAGA hat on, Spark Toro will actually activate your webcam, detect it, and delete your account before you have a chance to use the platform. So, pretty powerful stuff. Apparently though, I mean, someone here is saying that it was actually Rand's wife who came up with the idea for Spark Toro during a drunken tweet rage storm.
So that's her whole point of bringing back clout that was an obviously useless, retarded piece of shit.
Yeah, there was a real news story on the real Spark Toro site. Although SparkToro.net does seem just as real sometimes as the actual site. It's some kind of I don't know, like some kind of weird. it's like the play zone for a madman, SparkToro. It's like inbound.org's gone. So what if there was this amazing trending thing that just showed Moz and SparkToro news as being the main trending marketing stories? Go to SparkToro trending now, and the main stories are either Mozcon, and then once Mozcon died down, it was SparkToro's new tool to replace Clout. I mean, to determine the true value of a Twitter influencer. I mean, one thing, there's no such thing as a Twitter account as influence. Like someone who has 600,000 people following them tweets and it's gone in a second and there's, no one reads it. Not even the Kardashians have power on Twitter. Well, they do, but not what they had when. Twitter's just crazy now. It's kind of. It's a platform where if you talk directly to someone or in like a hashtag chat or something like that, people actually might see what you say, but it's kind of shouting into the abyss otherwise a lot of the time.
SparkToro political compliance checker. How it works. SparkToro's very own CEO and founder is developing this most needed feature of SparkToro because he's a feminist and wife to his wife, who maybe thought of SparkToro during a direct.
He's reading from the official SparkToro.net site. I just wanted to be clear; these are not the opinions of SEO UnMasked or myself, the official SparkToro researcher. It's on the official SparkToro.net website, so you can read it for yourself.
Yep.
So I put myself in and found that I have an influence of 3. Garrett, who doesn't use Twitter, has an influence of 1. We've got shitloads of business from Twitter. And it's all from my account. I'm pretty fucking sure I have more than 2 points out of 100 more influence than Garrett on Twitter.
Well, you would think someone... I do not use Twitter. I can understand why I have a 1 out of 100. That's totally fair. But for as often as Steve uses it, you would at least think he'd be like a 20 or something like...
Yeah. I mean, I think what they've done is they've realized their mistake with the Moz DA score, and they've adopted the Ahrefs approach. Where everyone is less than 1.
Well, in that case, you're getting a manual penalty like Tim Sulu gave us in Ahrefs.
Oh, man. Oh, we all say, like, Tim... No further. Oh, man, I don't know. Like, I have no idea how this... Everyone else there seems so normal, but, like, I've had email exchanges with... a long time ago, one of the founders, and everyone else there seems like totally normal, but the main person they put out in public is insane. So yeah, you can now, Clout is back. The scores are just as stupid as they were before. If you have a score as low as mine, then you're a worthless human being and should probably kill yourself.
Is that's what this Spark score is?
Yeah. It's just your new Clout score, but it only does Twitter because Rand likes Twitter, I think. What really shocked me is I looked at actually interesting. Garrett is more connected to interesting people than I am. Like most of the people I'm connected to UK-based SEOs that keep themselves to themselves, except for snarky comments. So you'd expect them to have, they've got a better sense of humor than me, so they have a little bit more influence. They're at 20 or whatever. But you wouldn't expect them to be like 99s or 70s or something, because they're not looking for followers outside of people that like snarky jokes about Moz or something. That kind of audience. It's just a pretty small market. Garrett's is more mainstream because he didn't use it very much, so he's either looking or like. He's researching for the show or something, so he's looking at search engine journal and stuff. It was kind of depressing that so many people who have so much more real reach and influence in the community, and this is no disrespect to Rand, he has a huge amount of influence and reach and stuff, but his score's pretty high compared to a lot of people and you look at some other niches, so I banged a few random ones in to see if there's people you would really quite like to tweet your stuff if you're in their niche with scores like 17, 8. I think it's a case of the same as after the Ahrefs update, where we just had to ignore basically Ahrefs for what's worth getting a link on. Because if you were to say, oh yeah, we're not going to do any links on anything below DR25 now on Ahrefs, you'd be throwing away like all these super relevant sites. I looked at a site in the crypto space recently on Ahrefs, and they'd built like 100% relevant links on all crypto blogs, but because they're all quite new and they haven't got that many links yet, and Ahrefs' score is like 99% of everything has below 5. Everything's like 0 to 5 DR. So if you had a client ordered DR25 links and they were a crypto client, you'd have to build them all links on non-crypto sites virtually to get them 20 links a month. But you look on Moz and they have a more reasonable score. You know, they're not like, you know, DA50 or something, but they're all in the low 20s and stuff. You know, they're like small upcoming sites. I think he's kind of barking up the wrong tree here with what people are looking for in influencer marketing. I think Joe Sinkwitz has a much smarter idea about what the problems are.
The thing is, I don't care what the fuck someone's rated. I want to know, one, obviously I haven't looked at SparkToro much, but I don't care about
SparkToro doesn't exist yet.
Well, I don't care about that score. I want to know if I'm promoting a product or whatever the fuck, does that person relate with my audience or not? That's all I care about. And then I want to know, maybe if you could generate a score based on if they actually had a legitimate algorithm that said, if I'm selling candles, this...
Are you selling candles?
Kind of. If Garrett's selling candles, what score does this influencer come back with? Because this target market follows this influencer.
Well, to be fair, he does say that's one of his goals, is to be able to answer that kind of question.
He's useless, and Joe Sinkwitz beat him to the punch for like 2 years now already.
Joe seems to be enjoying Twitter a lot more since SparkToro came out. He's become very, very funny on Twitter since SparkToro came out. I believe this to be because it's free advertising for him. A company with no product, so they can't sell anything. They can't take any money from him. Like, his clients can't spend money elsewhere on SparkToro. There is no product, but they're massively pumping out all this influencer marketing stuff, and I think we'll benefit from it if Ran keeps plugging SparkToro, because obviously we do influencer marketing. We use mostly manual outreach and totally old-fashioned shit like that. Like SparkToro is going to solve everything for us, though. So you just look at the fucking influence. You can tell in like 3 seconds from the last 10 posts whether it's the right influencer for you. I guarantee you, no AI can do that. Like, the human brain is still significantly more powerful at looking at a limited amount of contextual information and drawing accurate and broad conclusions from it. Now, some people say, well, of course that's true, but it leads to prejudice because we have things that will prejudge. But when you're looking at a mass of data, it doesn't really matter if you make a mistake 4% of the time because of some core internal prejudice that you have against a particular type of blog or something. That 96% accuracy is still going to be better than the algorithm with its accidental prejudice that you can never call prejudice because it's just an algorithm. But of course it has an accidental prejudice, and it's going to be wrong more than 4%. I think you're going to be able to pick the right ones worthy of sending an email and talking to about working with more often than an algorithm when you're faced with that subjective information, which is what you're always doing. Like, when you're looking for a YouTube channel to pitch, because a lot of campaigns are like, I want to do like 5 YouTube channels, and he's solving a problem that just doesn't exist. Like, when we get a campaign, it's people that are like, right, we want to do, like, I want to get some tweets, which they won't give a number on that because you just want to get like shitloads of those because you don't get much for each one. So it can be, that's a kind of 0 to fuckloads kind of number. And then they're like, we want to get like 20 blog posts on influential sites that also will post it on Facebook and their communities. And then we want to get like 5 YouTube shows mentioners. The numbers game in influencer marketing really isn't what he thinks it is. He's like, well, there's like a million influencers and I can't figure out who to talk to if I want to talk. It's like, no, the problem is you're trying to find the 5 really good channels, and that involves watching the first few seconds of like 10 of their videos to pick them as one of the 5 that you're going to present to the brand that you're going to work with. He's solving a non-existent problem with SparkToro. It's not a data, we've got too many of these. It's actually that there's plenty of them. It's picking the right ones and filtering loads of data with a load of arbitrary numbers that you're still going to have to look at the same ones. And when it comes to search, like take YouTube for example, Google's the world's biggest search company. His tool is going to tell me more accurately than Google which YouTube videos are most related to the thing I'm typing in. I'm skeptical because Bing's been trying to do that for a little while. So I don't think it's solving a problem that really exists. And I can see this pivoting quite a bit before it launches.
It's just Rand's new attempt at let's get some investors, let's get some money, and
oh, that's the thing. I mean, Rand's a good businessman. There's no question this will get some subscribers because he's great at driving influence himself, which is why this is actually a good idea for him as a sector to get into because he understands how to take advantage of it. Like he grew Moz through his personal influence. So I'm not going to criticize him. I mean, I think he will make money from this, but I think for those of us who are trying to do this sector professionally, what Joe's doing with IntelliFluence is much, much more useful, and that's where you'd be better off spending your dollars than whenever SparkToro launches. I mean, imagine, because it's going to be 3 years away or something. IntelliFluence is already useful. What's it going to be like in 3 years' time? Like, how far behind is SparkToro going to be when it launches versus what Joe's building? That's kind of... So I feel like don't dream of this. If you're in influencer marketing, you can do a lot of manual searching. You don't need to spend a load of money with a marketplace or a data provider or anything. If you're a big agency with the, $1,000 a year sign up is nothing, then obviously you want to get on Joe's product and give him $1,000 because if the $1,000 package, because we've got that package, annual renewal, so you get a massive discount on your first year and stuff. Because I think I don't know how much it is a monthly. It's hundreds a month, but you get it for $1,000 a year, and then you get more off in the first year depending on when you signed up. But like you get enough to run a mid-sized agency on. And like the basic package on SparkToro, according to their fundraising docs, is going to be $97. Like the basic package on Joe's product is like, I don't know, $20 or something. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, if you want to know your clout score, jump on SparkToro, I guess, and I'm going to send him a load of traffic anyway. So, despite my rant, loads of you find out what your Spark rank is. So, good luck. I mean, I know what mine is now. Mine's 3. So yeah, it works. This kind of bullshit works because you guys are all going to check out what your Spark rank is now and see what your new.
I just did. I'm an 8, and I don't know why. So I go on there once a week.
Our word agents is pawning it, man. Like you got like a. You know, like a 0.63% retweet ratio, and man, you're fucking killing me on there, man.
Yeah.
Well, should we run through some schema stuff really, really quick, and then Vin can talk about the sandbox and his thoughts on that?
What he's got to do, Vin has to do 101 schema points without saying 101. I gave you a link to help you out since you don't want to talk about schema. So I guess if you want to talk about local SEO,
actually, I have some stuff to talk about. I'll just talk about.
Go on then. Garrett will do it, and then Vin can do it.
I'm missing somebody's video feed here. Oh no, you're back. Never mind.
Whatever the fuck his name is on Twitter that keeps harassing us wanted to talk about schema, so we're going to talk about schema. That's fine. Historically, we have seen success with adding schema in the past, back when we were consulting, especially on local stuff. But to understand that there's a lot to schema, and you have to understand why it might be necessary and why it's not necessary. In a few minutes, I do have an example of why it's not necessary, and we do have a client that I'm pretty sure It's a local client, does not use any schema, and ranks just fine without it. Schema, the whole idea of it, if I'm a user on a local service provider's webpage, all that information is there for me to see. And as a human brain, I can look in the top left and see their logo. I can see their phone number in the top right. I can go to their footer and see their name, address, phone number again. In the middle, hopefully that's all that descriptive information that I find valuable. For a search engine, you know, Google's pretty good, Bing's pretty good, whatever. But they're not perfect.
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, whatever. A search engine might... Search engines are really good. I'm going to make a good point after this that it can read this stuff. But we all know it's just an algorithm. It's imperfect. And the whole idea behind using schema and structured data and microdata, especially in the local setting, is that sometimes what seems super obvious to our eye is not super obvious to a search engine. And to go beyond that, in the example I'm about to use, I'm going to use an example where there's a website that uses no structured data at all. It's a local sushi joint that's about 20 minutes away from me. And they use no structured data, yet their knowledge graph has everything that structured data would provide. Meaning that Google's pulling that from places like Yelp or TripAdvisor or their Facebook page or wherever else that's already using it.
Well, and Google My Business, of course, because a lot of businesses will provide it direct.
But there is stuff here that
isn't on the
stuff like that they're pulling from elsewhere, from reputable information places anyways, which may or may not negate the need to use schema at all in your situation.
That's actually one really interesting point that was brought up on, I'm assuming it's in the comments, the structured data generators. So they've become a lot more fussy around what you can leave out. So before you didn't have to fill in everything, but now, like for local businesses, things like it will fail the markup test if you don't include a picture. It will fail the markup test if you don't include a link to pricing information. There's been a move from opening hours to opening hours specifications. So they've really become a lot more fussy on the schema being exactly correct now and fully complete. So even if you use a data generator like the one that I've linked to, that'll get you started, but you still, when you put it on the site, you need to run it through your Search Console, formerly Webmaster Tools account.
One thing I don't like about this generator is...
there's like 50. This might not be the best one. It's just one I used once.
Yeah, I'm just noting it. Like the phone number, you notice below email clickable or URL clickable. Phone number should be clickable. Yeah, phone number, you should be able to designate that your phone number is clickable on your site in schema if you're...
Well, I think most of the clickable phone numbers on mobile are generated automatically by the browser. It doesn't need markup, I don't think, in most cases. I don't know if that's... I think that's still the case.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think the fussiness has definitely increased significantly since when. So I would prefer not to write schema myself as a non-technical SEO. I would always want to use a template. Whether you use one of these online generators, you can just download a raw template that you just have to fill in and paste on your site without a generator. But you know, I think for most of you are going to be in my situation where you're like, I've got one site I need some schema on. I know what it's for. I know which pages need what. Just fill it in on the generator. One interesting thing is, and you probably have to wait till next week for this one, or we'll add it to the comments later, or we'll talk about it in more detail on a special local SEO episode, is there's some hacks around services that you provide, because not all of them are in the schema, but there's like Google has a system where you can link to, instead of putting a category in, you can link to one of their, they've got like things you can link to which are represent different services, and that's really important for if your business has some niche activities that you want Google to know that you do. And there's some hacks around that which we had to do for one of our clients, which was a bit of a pain in the ass to figure out, but we got it all to validate correctly on Google's checker, which was pretty cool. And they did actually see a rankings boost from it, specifically for the ones that weren't categories that we could put on. They weren't available categories on Google My Business, so we couldn't tell Google any other way other than schema that they did those particular services, other than obviously having a page, you know, like I'm going to make one up, like ant removal and anthill extermination, and I'm pretty sure there isn't a link. There's probably no way you can hack something that specific, but imagine that was your thing. You know, we got some categories like that we couldn't put on Google My Business to rank suddenly after we added the schema. So there's a lot of reading to do around schema. There's some really good guides. I recommend if you have local clients, and there's a couple of terms that they seem like they would be easy to rank because they're super non-competitive specific things like anthill removal, Pennsylvania or something. That isn't the one we did, so if you search for that, you won't find a site that we did with that schema on. That kind of thing, sometimes you can save yourself with because Google can identify it then more easily. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. You can do a lot just by just slapping this shit on every page. And then at least Google can read the information 100% accurately, and you don't have to think about it anymore. So you can do the kind of minimalist approach and just fucking fill one of these in and slap it everywhere. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, guys.
No, that's sorry. What Steve said is true, but like the only point I want to make is schema is just one of those pieces to the local puzzle, and I believe it's a relatively, for most people, it's going to be a relatively small piece. Because the whole idea behind Google, it's supposed to be able to read what your website's about, right? And I don't have the source, and I've been thinking about the entire episode, but I know Gary Isles and John Mueller and Matt Cutts back in the day made a big point saying, we better be at a point with Google search engine that we don't need structured data. The whole point is we can just look at a website and know exactly what it's about.
That's their long-term goal, definitely.
And
I think they use structured data initially to learn how to read it.
They've been saying they've been saying that's their long-term goal for years and years now. Like eventually, when do we hit the long term?
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, you see way more cases now where they have a quick answer. Like Garrett was looking. I think we spoke about it on the show recently. He was looking at the answer box at the top, and before, when you saw an answer box, it was always marked up. It like always had schema. Like it had Q&A schema. It had tables and pricing, you know, whatever the thing it was showing the answer to, it always is marked up somehow as well as HTML. Now it's like you just see random stuff. It's picked from the article in the middle of it, no markup, nothing. Garrett found a whole massive pile of examples for really competitive terms where there was no markup at all. Google's used people marking it up to understand what it was looking for.
Right.
And now for a lot of them, it doesn't need the markup anymore, so it just ignores it. So I think the same will happen with a lot of that stuff in local as well. And I think it always comes down to the same thing. Have you got good words on your page?
Yeah. I just want to
got good reviews?
Yes.
Local, have you got good reviews? I mean, come on, that's all you need. Good words, good links, good reviews.
I just wanted to close on, it's like with this sushi restaurant, if you want to Google Sake Sushi at Chaska, Minnesota, with uncompetitive stuff, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're looking for an extra bump in something that's more competitive, because there's only one sushi restaurant west of the cities, and that happens to be in Chaska, which is 20 minutes east of me. I have to drive back towards it. Super uncompetitive, unneeded, and Google's doing a decent job. They're pulling reviews from around the web. They're getting the dollar amounts from Yelp and TripAdvisor and all that shit. And they're if you
Is that the place where it's like $900 for some sushi?
No, that was in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
But
Guys are ballers,
Google
people.
does have an ability to pull that data from around the web, and if you, I hate to put it this way, but it's like if you have a client that's easy, maybe you hold off until, because you have them ranking. Yeah, you have them ranking well. A little account man tip: they're ranking very well in the first couple months because it's a relatively easy niche or whatever the fuck you're in, or just a small city, whatever. But all of a sudden a competitor comes in, then you do your structured markup to make it look like you're doing something. I don't know.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's a good use of their budget anyway. I mean, without the cynicism, I mean, like, do the low hanging fruit.
That's profitable.
Yeah. But like add that final competitive edge when you need it. If Google's ranking them well and what you're doing is working, like don't
just to round things off. We have, yes, it helps. Do you necessarily need it to rank? No. But
I'm a bit confused why we're getting a local question. Like it's so fucking easy. Like put some good words on the page and build some links and get them. Make sure they get some fucking reviews now and then.
Yeah, Google Stack. That's the new big thing on Facebook.
Yeah, we've never had any problems ranking a local site, and we don't have to do anything fancy. Some of our clients can't even be bothered getting any reviews, and like if they got some reviews, they would just fucking slaughter it.
The king of easy local SEO reviews. The one client has 0, and it's like a mild. It's not aggressive competition, but it's not mild.
It's pretty competitive. Metro. It's a lot of money involved.
And it's like we have honestly 0 reviews, and we just keep building links because we can't get the client to do any reviews or anything, and works.
Just keeps on ranking more. Yeah. So I mean, it's
that's why I don't do client work. Because it'll drive me insane.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah. Well, these guys don't because they're killing it and everything's going well. They rank well. Leads keep coming in, and it's a lot of money for them. But I think honestly, everyone's so behind on local SEO. No one's doing it properly. Google would love all the schema shit to be done by everyone. No one's doing it, and it gives you you can get a boost. Like we've seen the boost. So yeah, if you're struggling, do it. But oh man, just get some good content up. A few links. I mean, Vin's killing it. Are your guys still killing it? The one
I'm looking at it right now. We're actually now we're ranking page 1 for national terms. Like it's a dental site. So what one of our supporting blog posts was does Medicaid cover dental care? And we're ranking number 8 for a term that's 5,200 searches and keyword difficulty 20.
You got an interesting thought, man. And I don't know, you guys are going to think I'm crazy or whatever, but so we always have these local clients and we do these national link baits. Or we do informative content that's like super useful to the local market. But obviously, they've hired a proper SEO company like Vin or ourselves. So they're going to rank nationally for it. Should they be like, you would never rank for that term and not make money from it if it was your affiliate site. Should we be making them put affiliate links on, lead gen, so that they can make money from it and become like their local dental practice makes them, $3 million a year or something. Well, if they do $1 million a year on affiliate income, like, should we do that for them? That's honest. That's a serious question.
I think that I would have to see this at scale more. But right now, that national term is their number one page for me.
Said to them, I can put this, this national provider on for people who are out of state. It'll only show, it'll load on JavaScript. It'll be an affiliate link that loads on JavaScript if they're more than 100 miles away from you. And if anyone clicks it, you'll make $50 every time someone signs up, and that comes to $3,000 a month or something. It struck me with our client that if they would do anything, they're going to say no because they don't want to do additional things, and that's understandable. I mean, they have a great business. It's But there's got to be
turning a local SEO business website into an affiliate powerhouse.
I think most. I think. Well, no. What I think though is I think most of the clients we've worked with over the years have ended up ranking for big money national terms that they could have popped an affiliate link on and made at least $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
I think that's an opportunity for.
Oh, we ranked #1 for how to get kids to brush their teeth.
There you go. Kids' toothbrushes. I mean, come on, that's an Amazon link right there. Who gives a shit? Like, they make $200 a month. It's part of their bill paid. It's free money for them. I think. I don't know. I think you guys are laughing at me. I think this is the least stupid idea I've ever had for people who know what they're doing, and they can make sites so authoritative. Not only do they dominate local, but they rank nationally.
Ahrefs is trying to tell me that only 60 people a month search for how to get kids to brush their teeth.
Yeah, that's what I see too. But it's a $20. It's a $20 CPC.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing it live in the live rankings, so I don't know what's up.
Yeah. I mean, well, forget like whether that one's there or not. Like, you could have that one.
I'm just laughing at Ahrefs. Like, surely more than 60 people in the United States of America Google how to get your kids to brush their teeth.
More than 60 kids a month are a pain in the ass about brushing their teeth at night.
Ahrefs, you guys got to pick up, because
they are way off on their traffic estimates compared with SERPWoo and SERPstat.
Yeah.
And actually, Garrett owes SERPstat an apology, because you quite like it now that we've had this lifetime.
Well, yeah, for the traffic numbers, yeah, they're definitely much more on point.
It's absolutely fantastic for the traffic numbers. They're usually about 30% too low from the few hundred sites we know the definite right numbers for. Ahrefs is generally 10 times too low, so it's a full order of magnitude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. So, and SERPWoo is pretty decent on individual keywords. Obviously, it doesn't give you the site's performance. It just gives you keywords performance.
I still see Ahrefs pick stuff up a lot faster than SERPWoo. Much faster.
I do find that confusing.
But SERPWoo tends to pick up. It'll take some time. SERPWoo will tend to pick up some stuff that Ahrefs will never pick up, as far as rankings.
Well, yeah, Ahrefs only looks at mainstream keywords, things that people are looking for. So we'll look for anything, no matter how weird you type. Like, you could type in like
no, without even typing it in. I have a keyword in the keyword tracker on Ahrefs. Ahrefs hasn't found it ever, and I've actually asked them in the support to query that keyword after I saw SERPWoo finally found this keyword, like 1 out of like the 500. And then Ahrefs said, "Yep, we crawled it," and then I haven't sent anything back yet. But it's like, you haven't crawled it because it's still not being tracked. Stupid little thing, but
yeah, I think for I don't know. I think SERPWoo it's a different kind of tool because it gives you the whole SERPs and
yeah.
It's a different kind of tool, but
I just both are much faster because then I would use it all the time. Now I'm stuck using.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised that it's not, because I kept telling you that you were wrong until you kept showing me that you were right, and now I've given up because for local, that's the crazy thing though. For local search, SERPWoo, because you can put like the specific geolocations in, and no one else is doing that well. Right. If you're a local SEO, SERPWoo is the only rank tracker you should have. And if you're a reputation management campaigns, it's phenomenal because you start a campaign, you can send someone a color coded top 100 for like all the keywords they're worried about, and then a month later you can show them what impact you had. I mean, not a month later. I mean, it takes ages to even finish the first cycle of reputation management. But it's not well. I mean, some agencies charge you every month for reputation management, of course. But if you're like us, where you're delivering X amount of work, then you take your time a bit more, so that you spend it optimally as you see how rankings move around. But you can show them at the end of the cycle. Like someone gives us $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, we'll gradually do stuff over 8-9 weeks or something, and at the end of that period we can show what's worked, what hasn't, what new things are ranking. It's like super cool because you can see it the whole way through, but you can show the graph. Like if you've got your tablet with you when you meet the client, you can pull up your SERP and you can show them the post that you got placed on, looking at the date now, because I'm no idea what, I still feel like it's March or something. How are we in July? You can show them on like the 26th of June, you got a post placed, it immediately popped at like 12th on Google, you built some links to it, and now it's 8th, so they can see it's moving up, and they know that they should spend the next month's budget because you're pushing the stuff up into page 1 for them. Like there isn't really another tool that gives you that kind of presentation power that SERP gives you when you're doing reputation management and local SEO. And local SEO, it's super cool because you can show when you punk those people out of the map box and they're gone. Especially if they weren't ranking organically. Like some of the competitors your local clients hate are suddenly gone from that fucking map box, and they're not even on page 1, and they see the graph. That guy they hate down the golf club is suddenly on page 3. And he was second before. That's super cool.
I gotta get so cool, man. I still don't have it. This is another fucking tool that I need to add to the mix.
That's another $3,000 a year. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, like for what you need SERP for, because you've only got a couple of clients that you track keywords for. It's only for your own sites. I mean, the basic pack,
sites, yeah.
It gives you all the, and because you only for SERP, I mean, I only use it for like the short tail big money terms, because you can see a competitor appearing. Like when someone launches a new site and they pop in at like 87th, you see them immediately on SERP.
Yeah.
Like they.
Yeah, let's just kind of end there, and we can transition into next week. We'll talk about the sandbox and why. I don't think the sandbox.
Yeah, we can do the sandbox main topic next week.
All right.
We'll do one quick core question. Trying to find one that was decent this week. I do have a review, but it's super short. But it's actually a good SEO topic, so you guys can have a play with it and see if you get. Okay, yeah, Quora is insane this week. I'm going to be skipping that, I think. I've been reading a lot on Twitter about this. So they're moving to a mobile-first index for lots of sites. But lots of people who are backlinking to you, your link may not appear or may not be correctly rendered, or their site might be included in the mobile-first index. So the googlecache.com has a tool where you can put in your domain and up to 100 of your backlinks and just keep, putting the next 100 in, the next 100 in. And it will tell you if some of your backlinks are potentially at risk of being lost when Google goes mobile first on their index. So far, I've put in about 3,000 links and only found one that it thought I was at risk of losing. So despite the huge amount of columns of writing about this in the SEO community, either the tool's broken or it's not going to be a big problem, because most people's sites, although they're not necessarily rendering perfectly for humans on mobile, Google's mobile bot is still going to be able to pick your links up correctly and stuff like that. So, but I guess if you're an enterprise client building virtual tool yourself and doing this kind of analysis might be cool. So I've pasted the link to this mobile backlinks checker. I would love to hear from you guys on Twitter if you find a site of yours that has a whole load of links that it's warning you about, and what type of site they were, what they were hosted on, maybe they were particular government sites that are set up badly, or, just to give us an idea of what kind of clients we could give a heads up to about this who might be in trouble. You know, like if it was someone who tends to get a lot of .gov links and .edu links and that was coming up, or I just couldn't find anything on things I was trying where the links weren't fine on both indexes. But it's something that's had a lot of discussion in the SEO community, and a lot of column inches have been wasted on it, that people might lose links due to mobile first indexing. I can't find any that this tool picks up on sites that I checked, so be really interested if any of you want to send me a quick tweet at SD Brownlee if you find some interesting category of link that webmasters might want to worry about, or if you want to come on the show and show us the kind of fuck ups people are making that mean that their links won't be indexed afterwards. That would be super cool. So send me a tweet if you find anything, but I've been struggling after a couple of thousand to find anything that's a worry. So I think people have been wasting their time writing about this so far as I can tell. But and I'm kind of assuming it's something you can't easily do something about. Like you can't make someone fix their non-mobile friendly site if their link was going to be dropped. It's something that's going to affect everyone equally.
Right.
So I don't know if it's going to affect the rankings in the end anyway, but just because so much was being talked about it, I tried to find a tool and look into it a bit more for you guys, and kind of failed to find a problem. So I think my take on it is you don't need to worry about it. I would love for one of you to prove me wrong and send me some proof that we do need to worry about it, so that we can talk about it some more next week.
Cool.
That's the googlecache.com/mobile-backlinks.php. You can pop your tests in there and see if you can find something. I'm assuming they found something before they built the fucking tool. So I'm hoping some of you can prove me wrong and show me something interesting by next week.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's our show.
I think we're out almost on exactly 2 hours, I think.
Cool. So, how many more weeks of a hat do I have? Is this next week?
Just next week's the last hat.
All right. Well, you got to make it a good one then.
Oh, it'll be a good one. Don't you worry. We went easy on you this week.
Thanks, buddy. I like the pirate hat this week.
Yeah. I thought that one was too kind. Actually, I got to do something.
Knowing you, I know that you're saving the best for last. So I'm
well, the only bad one's going to be on the last week because it's over then.
All right, dudes.
All right. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Adios. Bye.
See ya.